Boom, here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris. Today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Restive Nation, who has a new EP called Lucidum, which was released on June 12th. Right now, I'm being joined by Timmy to share some more information about what Restive Nation has been doing, what they've got going on. We're going to chat about a couple of tracks here. So, Timmy, welcome to the show.
Hello, John. Thank you so much for having me, man. This is awesome.
Absolutely great to have you on. And then we can immediately start talking about being in a coma. So I think it's, great. But it looks like one of the lead tracks here, or one of the main focus tracks, is a track called Coma. Though it is a pretty active track. I mean, it's a little bit of a head bobber. So take us through this track. What is this track about? What kind of a coma are we talking about? Because I was listening a bit to the lyrics, and it seems like there might be some deeper meaning to this song.
Yeah, so like Coma, it's as you said, it's a head bobber. I like that. I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to use that in the future. In Ireland, we like to say it's a banger. Do you guys have that over there? It's a banger.
Oddly enough, I hear it a lot from Europeans. They'll be like, "Yeah, this is a banger." Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a banger, which basically means it's like high energy, really beaty, really kind of get you going. And it's like it's kind of one of our, like, for us as musicians, it was a huge kind of leap in our writing evolution, you know. And it was one of those songs that it basically wrote itself. You know, we didn't have to put too much effort into it, and the mastermind behind the track is Chris, who's like the guitarist, and he does some kind of synth work in the band as well. And he just kind of came up with a little riff at the start, and then 10 minutes later, he had a full song. So those ones are always the keepers. Those ones are always the best. The ones that they seemingly write themselves. So Restive Nation, we're very, very different. We don't do things conventionally at all. And traditionally in the band, we always worked with guest vocalists. So every single song that we have put out in the past actually has a different vocalist on the track. Okay. So when we finished this, when we did a demo for this track Coma, we knew there was only one man for the job, and that's a man called Tony Carberry. And Tony is an amazing all-rounder vocalist. He has these amazing kind of harmony abilities, you know, an amazing clean kind of singing voice. And then when he wants to let rip, he can really scream his head off. And we thought he is the perfect man. He also has a great ear for a hook as well. So we sent the song to Tony, and when we sent the song to Tony, he had such a quick turnaround. He got the track, and then a week later, we had it back, and had full vocals on it, like lyrics, everything, really cool, hooky chorus. We thought, oh my God, like we're onto such a winner here. And what happened was we asked him afterwards about the lyrics, what it was all about, you know, so that the chorus line is unmask the truth that you hide behind. And basically it's just about confronting some maybe things that are going on inside you, and the mask kind of represents the mask we put on in public, you know, where everything is great. Hey, I'm happy. Yay, look at me, everybody, I'm so happy. Whereas inside things aren't going so good. And it's kind of, I guess it's like, it's encouragement to kind of take off the mask and confront who you really are, and reach out to some people. And he wrote that song just after. So Tony, he's a huge fan of Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, and he wrote that in 2017, so it would have been just after Chester Bennington passed away. I remember it was summer 2017, so that whole thing, it really affected him, and it kind of fed into the whole lyrics of Coma then.
Yeah, the thing, Timmy, is you mentioned so many incredible things there, and 2017 was a massive year for celebrity suicides. We didn't just lose Chester, unfortunately. We lost Avicii. That year we lost. I'm trying to remember. This is going to sound so bad.
Chris Cornell was the big one that affected me.
Yeah,
from Soundgarden, you know, and that was so, and they were kind of close together, Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. So it was such a strange year.
It was, and I'm also, as a chef, reminded of Anthony Bourdain. That was a hit to the culinary industry.
Yeah.
You know, and so I guess my question then is, since you mentioned, 2017, that Tony had written the lyrics for this one in 2017, now that it's 2020, has this track been around for a while then?
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. When we wrote it in 2017, it like instantly became one of our kind of, one of the staples in our live set, like we've built a great reputation for having like a really electric live show. And when Tony's on stage, he's just an absolute ball of energy. You're just so focused on Tony on stage. He just has this amazing presence, and it just became this thing that we kept. It was always the set closer. And but the thing was, the way we work, we're always really, really, really ahead of ourselves. So we had our first EP, which is called We Atrophy. It came out in 2018. So we had that recorded when we wrote Coma. So Coma kind of went into this queue. We were like, okay, well, it's not going to make the next EP, but it's going to make the EP after that. And then we actually went into the studio at the end of 2017, and we laid down the instrumental track for Coma, and that's the one that you hear today. Like, it's that actual instrumental track. And it went into a folder in our producer's studio. Like, every time we have a new song and it's completely settled, we go straight into the recording studio and we lay it down, and then when the time is right, we'll release it maybe as a single or as part of an EP. So Coma was kicking around for a long time in the studio, and then we finally kind of went back to it in December last year, 2019, and did some touch-ups and did a full mix, and we decided to have it as the lead single then for Lucidum. And it was amazing. We were just so lucky, like, because when this whole pandemic thing struck, we actually had the EP completely finished, so it really gave us time to focus on the PR aspect of the EP, and like really just dedicate the time to it that we think that it deserves,
Mm-hmm. And that's when Overdrive kicked into overdrive.
Yeah, go Oren.
Oren.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, he actually, the first time we played Coma live was at our first EP launch, and we just played it, and Oren was at the show, and he actually came up to the stage, and he just goes, "That's the song." He said, "Send me that, record that song, send me that song, and I'll get that out to the world." And that's what he did. Like, he started doing this big PR campaign about it, and like he finally kind of put us onto more of an international platform, which has just been, these past few weeks for us have been absolutely incredible, because that song is going everywhere. Like, it's hitting the UK, loads of kind of good radio rotation in the UK, then mainland Europe is the same, Canada, America. It just seems to be going everywhere. So it's really, really kind of progressing us to this next level. It's been amazing.
Beautiful. Now, something you also mentioned, speaking of next level, is that the Coma is you mentioned a huge leap in writing and in the evolution of Restive Nation's sound, or maybe you're just in songwriting. But that really is my question. What about the track, since it came so quickly in 10 minutes, is an evolution for Restive Nation?
So like our roots are very much in prog, we have these kind of, like, our earlier stuff is all this like really cool sprawling stuff that kind of builds and builds. We were never really a verse, chorus, verse kind of a band, like for us it's actually kind of hard for us to write that type of stuff. Like, some other people might say it's easier to do the verse, chorus, verse, but we just always naturally went at it from a kind of a progressive angle. And then Coma came along, and it was just a clear cut thing that we could, like, one of the problems with this band is that we always had trouble defining the band and and putting a label on the sound of the band. It's, from a creative point of view, that's really, really good, because we have all of these influences going on, but then from a marketing point of view, it's really, really hard to push the band out, because you don't really know where to place the band. But then Coma came, and it was this thing, and it was strong, and it was concise, and it just completely flowed. It was just completely natural. And the verse, chorus, verse thing, actually, this one is different because it goes chorus, verse, chorus. It actually starts with the chorus, so even that for us, like when you look at music, it's only something that was said to me a couple of weeks ago. Someone said, how rare it is that a song would start with the chorus, and I was like, no. And they're like, yeah. They're like, try to name one. And I was like, oh my god, I can't really, so just all of these kind of little elements. And then within the track itself, like, we used kind of, there was much different kind of like playing techniques, you know, and like we brought in this really cool kind of rip and lead synth, and we were really kind of getting to grips with using Ableton, which is the kind of electronic platform that we use. So like just all of these things coming together, it was just a huge leap in kind of accessibility and branding for the band.
Yeah. Now, the other track we're going to chat about today, Descent, is that also exemplified by this evolution that you just described with Coma?
No.
Well, that's why it's called Descent.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. You just put words on what's going on in my mind. We should talk more often, John. This is amazing. Yeah, exactly. So, no, Descent, it definitely has that proggy kind of feel, and Descent is definitely more of a kind of the traditional Restive Nation type vibe going on with that one. But it is still probably my favorite song that we have. Like, I absolutely love playing that song live. It's absolutely incredible. It just has this really nice, I'm a bass player, so it's just got this really, really tight knit groove, and what we had to do with that song was it's funny, it's like that whole song is built around the same 3 or 4 root notes, you know. So that one we couldn't let that one just write itself, you know. We had to put a lot of work into that one, and just make sure that dynamically it was sitting really well, you know, like, because you've only got these same 3 or 4 notes. So our kind of task with that one was to make sure that we did it in such a way that holds the attention of the listener, and I just think we did a really, really good job with that one. But it's very, very different process to what Coma was.
Yeah, I mean, my note on it actually is incredible sonic textures, and that's my only note. But really, in a broader sense, if I were to explain more of what I mean by that, is that I know when I'm listening to a great song, because what you mentioned was you want to keep the listener's attention, and I can vouch for that, because I don't want to make it sound bad, but I almost kind of forgot that I was listening to the song, and then I would pop in and go, hold on a second, this song kicks ass. And then I would kind of like go back to what I was doing, and then like, wait a minute, hold on a second, I'm still listening to this song. And that's ultimately, I know when it's a great song that I'm listening to, because usually I only have time to listen to like 10 seconds of a song, decide if it's going to be on the show or not, and then move on with my day. And I know it sounds short, but if you actually listen to 10 seconds of a song, it's quite a bit. However, I find that if I make it to like, you know, the 3-minute mark in a song, I'm like, okay, this band's really good. And I also found it was incredibly different from Coma at the same time. So I guess with regard to the EP as a whole, Lucidum, what is this EP? What did you guys set out to create?
Yeah, so like, oh God, that's that's a really good question. Like, we just wanted something that was completely no boundary, you know. Like, that's the whole motto of this band, you know. Like, it's like we take all of these influences and all of these elements, and we just kind of put everything in. When we're writing, we follow everything that sounds good, you know. Like, I know some bands, they're really, really strictly into, you know, oh, we're like a thrash metal band, and we're a grunge band, and we're like whatever, a pop punk band, you know, and they're very much in that box and in that writing style. But Restive Nation is way different. Like, there's a lot of people involved, there's a lot of elements involved, you know, there's a lot of influences. So we try to take the whole thing in, and we try not to fight the creative process. We just kind of follow our instinct with it and see what comes out. And that's why we work with so many different vocalists. You know, on this EP, there's 5 tracks, and over the 5 tracks, there's actually 4 different voices. So that's why we have so many vocalists, is because there's so much diversification going on through the music that we want the vocalists to complement that. So basically, the goal with Lucidum was just to write something unique, something different, and something honest. One thing we really, really try not to do is regurgitate things that other bands have done. Like, you can definitely hear our influences, you know. Like, we always say we love 9 Inch Nails, and we always say we love Tool and all of these kind of bands. You can definitely hear them influences, but we sound absolutely nothing like any of them bands. It's like a weird kind of combination of everything. And I think, like, in today's day and age, you know, like when there's so much music going on, you know, there's so much on the internet, and everybody can do it themselves, and everybody, like, anybody can release something online. And it's just getting harder and harder to poke through and to stay original and to try and bring something unique. So that would be the underlying thing. It's just to always try and stay fresh, always try and push the boundaries, and just try to stay interesting. You know, just don't go down the hole of falling into this genre where everything has been done to death. You know, just try and keep it fresh all the time.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because something that I was uniquely struggling with when I was listening to the record was I'm immediately hearing like Muse, or I'm immediately hearing Nine Inch Nails, or I'm immediately hearing something, but then you guys would morph and change in a way where all of a sudden, well, maybe not. But it's uniquely still you, and it's uniquely still fresh, where I can, in fact, hear your influences, but I'm not hearing your influences.
Yes, exactly. And that is exactly the point. You hit the nail on the head. And it's so funny, you know, you said Muse there, like we would never have, you know, I have huge respect for Muse, you know, I loved them back in the day, but like we would never have kind of cited Muse as an influence. But there you go, you're hearing something in there that reminds you of that, and that's exactly what we're trying to do, you know.
Wow. Very cool. Now, something you had mentioned was many different singers, and I'm just curious because I don't get very many, because of rock and metal, I typically don't get many guest vocal spots on. It's just something that is kind of left for EDM and hip hop. And something that makes EDM and hip hop so popular is the fact that they do that sharing scheme. And I would really love to see more of it in rock and metal, and especially bands who complain they're not getting enough exposure will just take a hit from rap and hip hop and EDM. They're constantly sharing each other. They're constantly, you know, doing guest vocal spots and whatnot. So I guess my question is, with the idea that rock and metal bands are usually pretty introverted units, how do you go about finding vocalists?
Yeah, like that's interesting. And like, I'm so glad that you said kind of EDM and hip hop, you know, like, because one of the big influences when starting this band, I actually a band that I played in before RESTIVE NATION was a trip hop band, like really kind of influenced by Massive Attack and Tricky and Portishead and all of these types of things. So like Massive Attack would famously, you know, they'd be working with a lot of guest vocalists. So that was there, you know, like that kind of idea was floating around in the subconscious somewhere. And then when myself and Chris started the band in 2014, we had a tight knit unit, but we just could not get a singer. It was so hard. Like we just couldn't get a singer. And we had written maybe 7 or 8 tracks in the first couple of months that we got together. And one day we were in the rehearsal studio, where we still are today, and there was a knock on the door, and in pops Siobhan, who was a really good friend of mine, and I played in the band with her before, and she was in there rehearsing with another band, and she's like, Timmy, this is you. I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my god, this sounds amazing. Can I like, what's the story with the band? And I was like, well, we have no vocalist, but we're just jamming along. She said, can I jam Witches? You know, we're like, of course. And she just jumped in and she picked up the mic and like she started playing singing over one of her songs, and it actually became her very first single. It's called It's Just a School, and it's on Spotify and everything. We released it in 2016, and we were just amazed by what she did on the track. It just sounded so awesome. And she said, well, if you're having trouble getting a vocalist, she said, I'm too busy, I can't join the band, but why, like, all of your songs sound really different, you have this really expansive kind of diverse kind of sound, why don't you just have RESTIVE NATION as this big collaborative thing where you work with all of these different singers, you know? And we said, ooh, that's a really interesting idea. So straight away, me and Chris, we started demoing absolutely everything. And so we'd write a track and we'd say, you know, Vinny from Limnetic Villains would sound great on this track. Let's send that to him and see if he'll do a vocal. Or, Dave from Realm Kingdom will sound great on that track. Why don't we send that to him? You know, so we started sending these the tracks to all these different people. Some of them were involved in kind of trip hop. Some of them were involved in R&B. Some of them were involved in metal, you know, EDM. And the response was really, really good. Like, everybody came back and they said, yeah, I'd love to do this. So they'd come into the studio, they'd do a demo, and if we were impressed with the vocal, we take it to the studio, record it properly in the recording studio, and then release it as a single. So like the first 4 singles, each of those tracks has a different vocalist on it. And then our first EP, again, loads of different vocalists. And that's something that I'm so proud of with this band, is that, you know, if you didn't know who we were and I just stuck on if I hit shuffle on our Spotify, you probably wouldn't guess that you were listening to the same band for 15 songs, you know? So that's what happened there, you know, that was the influence. It was purely because we couldn't get a singer. Gigs then became a bit of a problem because not everybody is available to come and play gigs. So we got a lot of songs. We got about 25 songs together. And if we had a gig come up, we'd text all the singers, who's available? And then I'm not. And then we just build the set around whatever singer was available that night. So what happened then, and like this is why like our live show became such a thing, every time you came to see us live, the set was completely different, and you never knew who was going to jump up on stage. You know, from a crowd perspective, it's always funny feedback we get. You know, oh, I was just there, you know, watching and enjoying the music, and all of a sudden the guy beside me just jumps up on stage and sings this blistering tune. You know, I never expected that, and we kind of got a bit of a name for ourselves by doing that. You know, and it was really, really cool experiment, something unique, something nobody had ever done before. On this scene anyway, on the kind of hard rock and metal scene.
Yeah, no, I mean completely. There's the odd time here and there, but it's definitely not something that, like I mentioned, you know, hip hop, where they're constantly doing that. I mean, from a Canadian perspective, Drake wouldn't be anywhere where he is today if he hadn't done as much work doing guest vocals in his early years, getting himself around, meeting people, making those contacts, and yeah. So I mean, if anyone's in a band and are listening in, try doing some guest vocals. And then obviously, Timmy, you just gave us some information. Reach out to bands, send them the track, and see if they're willing to jam on it. Now, I guess my next question with regard to that is, how far along is the track when you send it to them? Is it still a demo? Is it mixed as an instrumental?
Yeah, it's basically like every song we write is written as an instrumental, and it's usually pretty complete, you know. It's like we would, yeah, for us it would be a complete song, but we always send it to the vocalist with a thing of it's open ended, you know. So if you want us to cut out a section, or if you want us to extend the verse or extend the chorus, just tell us. We'll do whatever it takes to make the vocal work. But 9 times out of 10, they'll just do a vocal over exactly what they hear. Basically, that's the way it works, and we'd have it then, and we'd have it back from them with a vocal demo over within maybe a week or 2.
Wow, very, very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Now, normally,
yeah. Sorry, so just something else I'd like to add though. So with this whole guest vocalist thing, it just became it was really cool for the time that it ran, but it just became really difficult to manage. So that's why on this EP, now we are a 7-piece, you know. So we were originally, there was originally 4 of us, we went down to 3, and now we've got 7. 3 of these 7 are vocalists, and they are now permanent vocalists. They all did guest work with us in the past, but they ended up being the most consistent, you know. They ended up being there all the time, bringing back high quality material. So then just a couple of months ago, we asked them to officially be in the band, and they said yes. So now we're very happy. We actually have a stable lineup for the first time in 6 years.
Well, congratulations. And as my son would say, that is genius. His whole thing is genius. And part of what makes that genius is, you know, you can test people before you just fall in love with their falsetto, and then find out that they're quite a lot of falsetto.
Exactly.
And if anybody's in a band or listening in and they're recalling those times they've been duped by an otherwise great singer because of a trial and a couple of songs, you know, there it is. Try some people out for a little bit, you know.
Exactly. There's no rush, you know. Take your time. Get it sounding right, you know.
Exactly. And I don't know. It's kind of weird with you saying that, you know, with your Irish accent. It just makes me feel very comfortable. Like I'm on a countryside somewhere, and you're just like, just take your time. There's no rush. Like, you're right. There is no rush.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, normally this time of the year, we'd be chatting about, you know, all those wonderful summer shows, speaking of live shows and whatnot. But that has not been going on for obvious reasons. So what have you guys been up to during this time? Has it pretty much just been marketing the EP since it's got a summer release date?
Yeah. So like it's been a 3-stager, you know, at the very beginning. Like, so I'm not sure about you guys, but we kind of, Ireland officially closed on the 13th of March, which was a Friday. So we kind of everything went into lockdown, and then immediately I just went to our rehearsal studio and I took all of my stuff out and brought it all home and just set myself up here, to be able to record some bits and be able to write. So I spent like the first kind of 6 weeks or 2 months really just writing at home, like using Ableton, which is the electronic recording software that we use. And it was cool. We were kind of kicking around some ideas. I might have a little bass line and I'll record it in and then send it off to Chris, and then he'd add his bits, and we'd send it around, and then a week or two later everybody put their bits on, and then we have like a full song. So we kind of kept the creative process up, and it was really, really good. But then Coma came at the end of May, and then Lucidum came in June, so we kind of put a lot of the kind of music making on hold, the RESTIVE Nation music making on hold, and really started pushing out the EP and the single, and that went really well. It was just amazing to be able to actually have the time to sit down and dedicate to it and put in the hours and contact and reach out to all these people. So it went really well. And now what's amazing is our rehearsal space has opened up again, so we are really, really happy. We just got down yesterday, actually. We got down there, we kind of cleaned the room and hoovered it all out and set it all up nice and fresh, and we had our first jam yesterday in like 3 months, and we were just, this is amazing. Now we can finally like start playing again, so that's what's going to happen now I'd say from now until the end of the year. We're just going to play, we're going to write, we're going to get tighter than we've ever been, because now we can go in, like traditionally we'd have two jam days during the week, but at the moment now we'd be looking at maybe doing 3 or 4 days a week. So just pure creativity, locked in our little studio there, and just being really tight, but starting to look at doing some gigs next year, so really trying to capitalize on the kind of international attention that we've gotten, and really just try to get out of Ireland and start playing a few shows across Europe. And if we can get over there to get over to America, Canada, it'd be absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. All right. Well, Timmy, unless there's anything that I missed, I just wanted to thank you for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast.
John, thank you so much. You're a legend, man. Do you know that? You're a legend. Did they say that in Canada?
No, it's a very, very UK thing. Or
okay, you know what it means, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, though. I appreciate it. I appreciate being called a legend. Thank you.
Yeah, you're a legend, John. Thank you for having me, and hopefully I can come on again some other time, but maybe with some stories of gigs when everything gets back to normal,
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.